is making gas much more expensive. If you're driving on the road, you know this. The national average is now $3.58 a gallon. Chief Correspondent Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning. Nobody likes it when the gas starts with 3 when it used to start with 2. Good morning to you.
Absolutely not, and it looks like this could be getting even more heated. Just a short time ago, Gail, we learned that 3 ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz, that narrow channel through which a fifth of the world's oil passes, were struck by suspected Iranian drones. That is, U.S. officials tell us that they see that Iran may be taking steps towards laying mines in those very waters. The U.S. military says it's hunting Iranian mine-laying ships in the Persian Gulf, but Iran appears to have tightened its grip on the choke point of the Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of the world's oil passes. Just this morning, 3 ships in the Persian Gulf reported being struck by suspected Iranian drones. The U.S. says its strikes have significantly reduced Iranian missile and drone fire.
Ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward 90% from where they've started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83%.
But Arab states along the Gulf, including the U.S. bases they host, still face dozens of daily missiles and one-way attack drones. In Bahrain, drone strikes targeted a residential building and an oil refinery, which has been smoldering for days. Dubai's airport confirming it was targeted by 2 drones, which left 4 people wounded. If the war ended today, would it be enough? Could you consider it a success?
It's definitely not a victory. I have to say that, because the regime is not going to capitulate, not in a million ways.
The U.S. and Israel say they have hobbled Iran's military with over 5,000 strikes. In Tehran, video shows cratered streets, body bags are laid out on the ground. What the regime says was a residential high-rise hollowed out by a missile. Red Crescent rescuers claw through the skeleton of the building, rubble all around. And a new front is expanding. In Lebanon, the stronghold of Iran's main proxy in the region, Hezbollah, which began firing rockets and drones at Israel at the onset of the war, Israel now ordering more people to leave areas it is targeting. The UN says nearly 700,000 people have been forced from their homes. And we're also learning more about the costs of this war. A Pentagon estimate says that in the first 2 days of this war alone, $5.6 billion were just spent on munitions, but there's also a human toll. The Pentagon also saying that about 140 U.S. service members have been wounded, but they say that most of them have returned to duty. Vlad.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Voters in Georgia are testing President Trump's influence ahead of the midterm elections. They voted in a special election on Tuesday, and Chief Washington analyst Robert Costa is here with the results. So, Bob, take a look at the results of the 14th congressional district race. It's a deep red district, as I'm sure you know. Trump endorsed Republican candidate Clay Fuller. He is now headed for a runoff against Democrat Sean Harris. So what does this say to you about the president's political strength at this moment?
Well, you see in this first round, the Democrats did better than the Trump-endorsed Republican Clay Fuller, and it's a sign that Democrats have a bit of optimism about Georgia in a midterm election. Senator John Ossoff also running in that state, a Democrat who won back in 2021. But you see that President Trump's candidate won in a crowded primary, and that there's a lot of debate right now in the GOP, but at the end of the day, having his hand on the scale, it matters.
You know, listen, I think the war in Iran is not helping him. And even his base is divided on that. And the latest poll shows most Americans don't support this war. I know you talked to the president recently. What did he have to say about that? And what are Republicans saying about it to you?
There might be grumbles behind the scenes, Gail, but when he was with congressional Republicans in recent days, they were giving him a standing ovation.
But they always do, though, don't they?
So far, and that could end at some point, but not anytime soon, based on my reporting. And you see in the president's conversation with me in recent weeks, and you see in his conversation with Republicans a lot of confidence that, yes, people are concerned about the economy. The Democrats are running on affordability. There's, of course, concern about a war in the Middle East against Iran. But at the same time, he has such a grip over the GOP going back 10-plus years now. There's no real opposition to him in a formidable way.
And he's still very popular with his base. That has not changed.
Some of the people in the base are non-interventionists. They don't love to see the U.S. military going into Iran. Think about even his own vice president, J.D. Vance, a firm supporter of President Trump, but not exactly someone who would be advocating for this kind of military intervention. But he's still on the same team. He's still sticking with President Trump.
Now in Kentucky, the president has back back the primary challenger of one of his staunchest critics, Republican Congressman Thomas Massey. What is the message do you think that the president is sending ahead of those midterms?
So this is a race we're really watching because in Georgia, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, very conservative. You wouldn't be surprised to see his candidate do pretty well there. But Thomas Massey has his own independent conservative reputation in Kentucky, and he's gone against, we've been following it, President Trump on the Epstein files. He's been opposed to President Trump and how he's handled the war with Iran. So if President Trump can topple someone who's a real high-profile critic, that'll be a sign to a lot of other Republicans, don't mess with the president. But if Massey survives this primary, maybe some more Republicans will start to say, you know what, I'll be a little bit more independent too. I won't pay such a political cost.
We'll be watching. Bob, thank you very much as always. We're getting our first look at the Pentagon's plan to cut AI company Anthropic out of its systems after labeling it a supply chain risk. CBS News exclusively obtained a memo that reveals just how deeply Anthropic's Claude is embedded in some of the most sensitive military programs. Claude is an AI assistant that can change and help process huge amounts of information extremely fast. Jolene Kent joins us now to break it all down. Jolene, good morning.
Vlad, good morning. We got a copy of this memo late last night, and it's the first time we're seeing just how involved Anthropic's AI has been in the highest levels of the Defense Department. This internal DoD memo was dated March 6th, and it orders senior leaders and commanders to remove Anthropic's products from key national security systems within 6 months. And this list is fascinating. It includes national security systems, strategic priorities, and nuclear weapons, nuclear command, control, and communications, continuity of the government, ballistic missile defense, and warfighting capabilities at what they call high-risk cyber survivability levels. Now, it's a pretty comprehensive list that shows us how intertwined Claude is with the U.S. military right now. And we've reached out to Anthropic. They declined to comment, but the company did file 2 lawsuits against the federal government on Monday, alleging it has illegally retaliated by designating a, quote, supply chain risk. And that's the first time the U.S. government has ever used that designation against an American company. And late yesterday, Anthropic filed for an injunction in court, but it has not yet been granted. But a lot of money on the line here as well, Vlad.
Yeah, this is a fascinating case. Jolene, you were also surprised when you saw the extent of Claude's use in military systems, including in nuclear command and control. I mean, how hard will it be for the United States military, the Pentagon, to untangle Claude from the infrastructure?
This is a very important process and question, and a source directly familiar with Claude's military usage told us here at CBS News that the only thing that Claude is doing for the military is actually sifting through large amounts of data. What about intelligence reports, synthesizing patterns, like summarizing findings and surfacing relevant information that is faster than what a human analyst could do, right? And despite the government-wide ban on Anthropic, sources familiar with the U.S. military's use of AI also confirmed that the Pentagon has continued to use the company's Claude AI model in this war in Iran. So now the question is, what will replace Claude? How long will it take? And when will it be fully integrated as more military leaders are relying on AI, just as so many of us do in our day-to-day lives?
Yeah, incredibly fascinating when you consider nuclear command and control. Jolene Kent for us. Thank you very much, Jolene.